Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa Van Keken and business wealth coach Karen Ravel.
Hi Karen, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Tessa. Despite what's going on, I'm feeling very well.
Yeah, I think that is what is on everyone's mind whenever you meet somebody, whether it's online or offline at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's what we wanted to talk about today, around some of the fear and worry that's coming up, and possibly even the isolation that people are experiencing during these times. Yes. And how it's impacting us all, in the sense of how we're having to, live and work differently to what's been going on before. So, and we talked about this in one of the other conversations around how really I don't really like the term social distancing. I think it's more about physical distancing rather than social distancing, because we can connect online. But it is interesting because even that is different. Both you and I have been out networking online, and we have noticed some differences, haven't we?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think on the one hand, we're so blessed again that we have all these tools to be able to more or less connect as usual, except that it's not physical, but that we have the opportunity to continue to connect online. And with all the different tools, like, it's even possible for bigger meetings and networking meetings. I know most networking meetings, courses, everything is now online, and there's so many ways that we can do that. And yet in the last week or so, it's so interesting that several of my clients have mentioned that there were certain things that they really missed. And one was just the chat and banter. And I thought that was so interesting. And I realized, like, when you're meeting online, first of all, it's always organized, but you have to schedule. You have to arrange, you have to, even if you just send a link now and say, hey, will we go? You have to still ask, will we go online now? You're not just bumping into someone. Mm-hmm. So whether you're in an office normally, or whether your contact, if you're as an entrepreneur, mostly work at home, your contacts at networking meetings, most of the time, when you arrive, you bump into someone, you just quickly chat to someone, or after, or when you get your coffee, or these kind of things. In those moments, those kind of chance encounters, they are gone.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. I didn't realize that yet, because we think of the actual networking meeting, and that one, yes, we can do that online. Or again, the meeting if you're in a team or whatever. But that in between, that contact, that's just.
Yeah, and it's actually that personal chit chat between people is often when you're really building those relationships and getting to know people. So yeah, I agree that doesn't seem to take place anymore, or is just happening in a different way, in that, like you say, it has to be arranged. Yeah. Has to be more formalized, which in itself kind of takes something away from it.
Yeah, and I think on the one hand, it does take something away from it. It just requires some adaptation. It's just getting used to, but it's also that acknowledgement. I think it's just something that it's important. Like, you know me, like, I'm all around always being present and accepting what is. And to me, this is one of those examples where you can go, oh, no, it's all fine. And we can meet online and it's all more or less the same. And I think there is, again, that then you start missing that, because it's not the same. Whereas if you actually acknowledge and you say, hey, this is different now, and what is it that I got from those kind of meetings? Like, what is it that I'm now missing from now that it's, more arranged or more in a general meeting, or like even again, if you're in whatever meeting it is, whether it's a work meeting or a network meeting, when you sit beside someone, whichever way, you sometimes just turn around and just say something to that person, and the rest of the group doesn't hear that. Obviously, when you're using Zoom or any other tool, if I say something, everyone in the group hears it. It doesn't matter how far away they are or whatever. So,
although I will pick up on that, Tessa, because one of the things I've found, and when we're in a couple of groups together, is if you are using Zoom, I know that this isn't the case with all tools, but I've just thought about it because sometimes I have private messages going on in the chat to someone. So rather than it being expressed out to the whole group, you can have a little chat. Now, obviously, that's not speaking, that's not a verbal conversation, but I'm just thinking back as you're saying it, and I'm thinking, well, actually, sometimes I do have a little chat in the chat. You message people, so I think you can do that. There are ways, but it depends what tools you're using. So
and I think it's that again what we just said about that when you recognize that you can't just turn your head and talk to the person beside you, that you have to start look, okay, what is it that I got out of that? Why was that important to me? And how can I still get that? So for instance, as you said, you can use the chat. So I think this is actually exactly what I mean, that it just requires that you acknowledge that it's different than when we met physically. It's different than a physical meeting. It really is. And I think, again, it means that for that isolation bit where you feel like, and I think that's a big thing of isolation, it's that personal contact. And I think the connection we can create with this kind of tool, like, as a bigger group and all meet together. But it's very important to realize for yourself that personal connection you have with people, whether it's as a group or with one individual, that you really feel for yourself, what is it that you got out of there and how can you now create that? What steps can you take? Like, for instance, as you said, do it in a private chat. One other thing that I had from someone, like they were actually working just in an office, like bigger teams. And the interesting thing is that until this all happened, she was always saying how important it was for her to be able to work from home at least several days a week. And now she actually has realized that the not working at home every day is very, very important to her, that she really, really wants also the physical contact, exactly this.
And I think recognizing that for some personalities, that is going to be more important than others, so if you're happy at home and loving this time in terms of what you're getting out of it, then that's fine as well. There's no expectation on anyone. So but one of the groups I'm in actually this week has set up I think it's like 11 o'clock, so it's not, it's basically a link that you can go online. It's just a coffee and chat, so it's not about your business or whatever. It is just literally, and you don't know who's going to be on there. It's just just turn up with and see, and so they're trying to replicate that just meeting even though it's pre-arranged time, but I think you can drop in at any time during that hour or so, but it's just see who's there and who you might talk to, and it, like you say, it's not a formalized networking place. So.
And I think one of the other things that people came up with is like, there are a lot of these tools also allow breakout rooms that you can, if it's a bigger group, let's say you're with 10 people or even more, that you can actually split it up in smaller groups. So for the people that also find it more comfortable to talk to one or two other people rather than this bigger group are there. And what's very nice is if you have a tool that allows you to assign people randomly to these groups. And that's kind of, to me, that's one of the ways as well, again, to kind of create these kind of chance encounters. Like, it's the same that if you just, got up from your desk and talk and went up to get your cup of coffee or the network meeting, you don't know exactly who's arriving when, so you don't know who you will bump into. So I think this kind of can help you to create a little bit that social aspect that gets lost when you schedule meetings online. So that is one way of creating a little bit more of that social encounters, if you like, and then chance encounters.
And I think it's also important to recognize what your needs are around the social encounters, because again, we've been talking about networking, which is kind of like a formal thing around your business, but some people, I think, just might want to get away from the fact that they've got their kids at home all the time, or just the general fear that is, you know, if you're watching the news a lot, you know, and you're hearing about coronavirus all the time, and, you know, there's a certain level of anxiety or worry there that's kind of constant. And I think, you know, recognizing that sometimes you just want to get away and talk to people and, you know, not ignore the situation, but for a while just take a break from that. You want to, you know, maybe have a laugh or have some fun, or just talk about other things that are not so serious at this point in time, you know. And that's not taking away what's going on in the world, but you don't want it 24/7, you know. And it's like, you know, especially if your businesses or your work has been impacted by the virus right now, then, you know, there's that constant anxiety and fear in the background. And I think sometimes you just want to break from that as well. So that's social connection can sometimes be just good to you know, get away from that worry. Right, well, I think you know, there's quite a lot of things in there for today for people to who are listening, you know, to really sort of perhaps take a pause for a moment and just have a think about what's going on for them and how they're feeling around both being isolated but also connecting online. And I think I just want to add some practical little tips there, in that, you know, you have a choice right now around who you follow, who you network with. And, you know, if you've been used to working in an office, you even have a choice right now, probably, of who you interact with altogether. So, you know, don't take that lightly. You know, you can choose to unfollow people at the moment, even if it's just for a short period of time, but try and stay positive as much as you can. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing is, again, to really, really be mindful for yourself what it is that you need at this moment in time, both just in general, but also in particular with your interactions, like your encounters with people, like what it is that you need from that, so that you can also really make sure that you either join the meetings or make sure you arrange the type of encounters that really help you to cope at this time.
Okay, well, it's been great talking to you again, Tessa, and hopefully those who are listening, you've got something out of this today. We'd love to hear your feedback. Please drop us a comment below, or you can email us, and we'd love to hear from you. Until next week, take care.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Do share your thoughts and questions in the comments, or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at karenravel.com
and tessavankaken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.